also in the ZotGPT demo as well. AI-assisted redlining research administration, that'll be another component in the demo. And then accelerating grant proposal development was ZotGPT, and then overcoming concerns and roadblocks. So learning objectives this morning: understand the role of AI in enhancing communication, utilize AI for document drafting and review, implement AI for training and performance analysis, and leverage AI for agreement negotiations. So essentially what we have here is, as research administrators, or as a research administrator myself, one of the benefits, or one of the many benefits of AI is that it can handle large volumes of inquiries and predictive analytics. We are currently reviewing our structure and our workflow in the office. And one of the things that we've done to help us with that is essentially build a chatbot that has been provided data sets on our metrics. And it's really helped us conduct a number of inquiries to help us identify the most efficient model and most efficient department assignments for our officers. It streamlines operations, supports data-driven decisions, facilitate risk assessments in redlining contracts and developing training content, expedites and strengthens communication. One thing that I've found, especially recently over the last 8 months, I'm being asked to provide updates to leadership on the current federal landscape here in the United States, and take large volumes of information and condense it in a way that is easily digestible by senior leadership. And AI has really helped me make that a much more efficient process. We're also very fortunate here at UCI. We have our own AI tool built on commercial large language models. It's secure, walled-in. It's a secure and walled-in environment. It's accessible to UCI users. Can handle various types of data, including sensitive university data. So there's enhanced security. So we don't have a concern about some of the maybe negotiation positions or information that we don't necessarily want available to the public leaking out. Again, AI facilitated communication. One thing, again, as we all manage a significant volume of workload and communications, emails, I've found that AI has allowed me to move through my inbox much more quickly. And be able to take a few bullet points or some thoughts that I've had about an issue and expand on it, or take some lengthy thoughts that I have on a particular issue, or a response that has taken some time, and condense it down in a way where it's maybe more easily digestible by the audience. Another thing that has helped, another way that I've leveraged AI for communication has been performance evaluations. And I communicate this to the staff. It shouldn't be interpreted as a lack of caring or a lack of interest in someone's performance evaluation if we leverage AI to improve or make our commenting more efficient. Essentially, what we're doing is we're taking a process that previously used to take hours on hours, and allowing it to take less time, so that we can spend more time on considering things like professional development goals, strategies for achieving those professional development goals, meeting with staff members, talking through it with them, meeting with them more regularly rather than on an annual basis or a semi-annual basis, meeting with it quarterly or maybe monthly, because the task does not take as much time. It's not as much of an investment, but you're still getting that beneficial touch point. And really what it does is be able to, rather than spending hours on the writing exercise, you're able to spend that time more productively. Another, area that we've been looking at. So, we have a very fluid environment here. And we're having to pivot and move very quickly, either work with collaborators at other institutions, or communicate changes here at UC Irvine to our sub-awardees. and we've been able to leverage AI to help us quickly draft and send out those communications. And then if we are appealing or asking for reconsideration, there are typically short turnaround times on those requirements, and we've been able to leverage AI to help us meet those turnaround times, especially when we're dealing with a high volume of such requests. Um, One of the great things, in my career, a lot of my transactional experience has been in agreement negotiations, and for a long time, we've had things, just Excel spreadsheets that have rationale, or we have negotiator handbooks, and providing rationale for certain changes. And as definitely as a new negotiator, you rely heavily on those. Rationale banks. And one thing that AI has helped our newer officers is be able to adapt, our standard positions or our policies and principles to help come up with new and novel rationale to maybe help communicate the need for a certain change, in a better way. Another thing that I know that the officers with my office are doing is using our AI tool to provide rationale and help us explain certain changes in real time. So if we're on a call with a sponsor and we're running into a challenge in how we communicate certain things, rather, than maybe our standard position, we're trying to find an alternative way. We're leveraging AI, and obviously it takes expertise and skill in knowing what our principles and policies are, and sort of what latitude we have. But again, it can get you to a middle ground much more quickly. This isn't developing training content. This is an area that I think I've seen a vast improvement on with leveraging AI. Previously, you have a limited bandwidth to commit to training content, to presentations such as this one. And you really have to be mindful about overcommitting yourself, because putting together a slide deck, putting together training content, depending on the topic, could take a significant amount of time. But with AI and being able to take previous iterations of training content and update it, or being able to take certain thoughts or new policies or guidelines from agencies, and to be able to quickly get something down on a page so that you're only spending time refining it rather than coming up with novel content, I think has, at least for me personally, has increased my ability to commit to opportunities like this one, or opportunities like presenting at Incura. We as an institution have long wanted to develop a more formal training course for research administrations, not just in central offices, but throughout the campus and departments, to create some consistency and share knowledge with especially new research administrators. But it's been a huge investment. And we're actually going to be initiating that process to develop a formal training course in the fall, hopefully implementing it in the spring, because we have AI to help us. We're able to take these one-off trainings that we've been providing over the years, update them accordingly, and be able to maintain them much more easily, because we've been able to leverage AI for that purpose. For a number of years, I was tasked with attending a certain type of meeting, in Washington, D.C. And that meeting always was very beneficial, but very dense. And executive leadership at the university that I was working with relied on me to take that dense content and condense it down in a way that they could easily take what were the pertinent points from that meeting, and be able to understand and be able to speak to them, in other meetings. And so that exercise would take a significant amount of time on my part to ensure that I was taking my notes and the presentations, and making sure I was pulling out the important parts and drafting it in a way that was easily readable by senior leadership. But AI has significantly improved that process. And so being able to take notes from a meeting, be able to take presentation slides, and asking, the AI tool to pull out pertinent points based on a certain audience. executive leadership on the financial side of a university, what are the pertinent points that they should know? Obviously, it's not going to be something that can be relied on without reviewing and going through and refining and maybe pulling out additional points that the AI tool did not pick up. But it'll get you 75 to 80% of the way there, and you're able to turn around that executive briefing much more quickly so that they are aware of these important points sooner rather than later. Again, increasing one's ability to contribute to research administration societies. I think this is an important point to make. I get so much value out of being a member of organizations such as the National Council of University Research Administrators, and I always felt so guilty because I felt like I wasn't contributing as much as I was getting out of being a member. And so being able to leverage AI to contribute more and present more for these societies has made it, I think, a really more beneficial relationship for us. Next slide. And again, so I'll get into this more during the demo. But one thing that we've done, and we have this tool, ZotGPT Creator, and it allows us to quickly, a UC Irvine user to create a chat bot very quickly. And as part of this effort to get a better understanding of what is our current model, is there anything that we could do to improve our organizational structure? We uploaded metrics about our proposal numbers, our contract numbers, how that's distributed across the campus, how that's distributed across contracting grant officers. And we've been able to, simply ask this chatbot questions about what would be, what are certain models, how would they be structured? And so, things that, exercises that may take hours previously, we're able to perform much more quickly and come out with new ideas for how we should improve our structure as a university, the research administration infrastructure that we have. This is one area that we're still working through, but this has been a priority for us for quite a while. So we triage our assignments, essentially based on numbers. And so we're looking at ensuring that, these proposals and awards are distributed equitably across our contract and grant officers. We want to make sure that, volume does not become a bottleneck. But we know as research administrators that, one proposal doesn't necessarily equate to another proposal in terms of how much time an officer may spend with a principal investigator on developing, the budget and developing the other attachments that are needed for the proposal. We also know that, one agreement does not necessarily equate to another agreement. There may be more complex issues, there may be IP concerns, there may be liability concerns, whereas the other agreement may be very straightforward and maybe something that does not necessitate a significant amount of negotiation. So, just looking at, transactional numbers does not necessarily provide leadership a clear understanding of the volume that an officer is currently handling. And so what we're trying to do is incorporate AI and, an analysis that AI could conduct on a particular transaction to help us better understanding from the onset what may be a lower risk transaction versus a higher risk. And not only will that help us improve our turnaround times, but it may also help us ensure that, higher risk agreements are assigned to senior officers, to sort of mitigate risk for the university, ensure that, a high risk contract is not, overlooked as to the, risk it poses to the university. AI assisted redlining and research administration. I recently moved from another University of California campus, and we were exploring commercially available tools for redlining, and those commercially available tools are very expensive and may not necessarily be developed for research administration. A lot of them, in my experience in testing them out and going through, the discussions with the vendor, are really developed for, law firms and the procurement process. And one of the real crossover areas are probably non-disclosure agreements, but they take a lot of time to develop those knowledge banks that help teach that AI tool on what your positions are and what they should be redlining. But I think the investment in the long term will be beneficial for a university because it can essentially create that first draft of a redline. It is definitely not plug and play. In exploring these redlining tools that are available out there, there are going to be issues. There are going to be positions that are not caught, or certain things where you may be overly negotiating a contract, and an officer who has that discretion may understand that the sponsor that you're working with, or the other party that you're working with, you've done a lot of business with them before, you have a strong relationship with them, and you may not necessarily need to negotiate a particular contract to first position in every case. However, it is going to make it's going to do a lot of the work for you leading up into that point. But I think the important part, as you start exploring these sort of redlining tools, if you want staff buy-in, explaining to them that this is not going to be something that can essentially negotiate a contract without any human input, because that's just not the case. Again, human oversight remains essential, especially in later rounds of negotiation. In my experience, an AI redlining tool is very beneficial for early stages of negotiation, as you capture, the major concerns. But as you are forced to make business decisions, to find that compromise position that works well for both parties, a human is definitely essential in that decision-making process, in understanding, what sort of latitude you have, and what sort of risk tolerance your particular institution has. Essentially, it's a hybrid model. You're leveraging AI, but you're also having the human component as well. And so really it's a supplement. It's not going to replace it. It just supplements those human resources that you have. Additionally, an institution must establish clear governance frameworks to monitor AI performance and manage risk, and ensure that AI outputs align with institutional policies or sponsor expectations. I think that's not just important with AI-supported redlining, but it's also important with any time that you're leveraging AI for content development, drafting communications. You still need someone there to ensure that what the AI is putting out aligns with what the expectations are. One of the areas that we've been leveraging our tool, ZotGPT, is helping our faculty members scale up their proposal development. And again, we have a tool called ZotGPT Creator, which is a way for our campus to quickly put together a chatbot for a particular purpose. And one area that we recently launched here on campus is a way to help principal investigators put together faculty descriptions. So we've uploaded, a knowledge bank of information about facilities on campus. And so rather than having to come up with a description of the facilities that a particular project's use without any sort of support, a PI can actually access this chatbot, ask it a number of questions about potential facilities that the project may need, and it'll give you a description. And so that description can be then taken over to a proposal and refined. Obviously, with many sponsors looking at how generative AI is being used for proposals, that's a key area that a PI needs to focus, and an institution needs to focus on. What's allowable? What does the sponsor allow? One thing that we've done, with helping manage, potential restrictions on leveraging generative AI for proposal development, or leveraging generative AI in the performance of a project, is we've incorporated questions about the principal investigator's use of AI in the proposal development process, or plans to use a generative AI in the performance of a project into our proposal questionnaire. That way, we're able to capture this information up front and have any sort of conversations that we need to have with a PI from the onset, rather than having this come up, potentially as an issue in the future. So overcoming concerns and roadblocks. One of the, we as a society are moving towards using AI more in our daily lives than we were, a year ago, 24 months ago. And so the resistance to change, I've definitely seen, not as much resistance, especially within a work environment in recent months. People are acknowledging and recognizing that, AI is very powerful and really can help us improve our workflows and help manage, work-life balance. And that's one of the things that I stress when discussing how to incorporate AI, is that I try to give examples about how AI has helped me create more work-life balance in my life, how it's helped me improve the products that what I'm developing, presentations, memos, my contracts, really showing what the benefit is, and hoping that because I'm showing what the benefit is, I'm able to help that individual overcome that resistance to change. Usability, in certain cases when I'm working with individuals, they just have a lack of understanding of how these tools work. And so demoing, having them shadow you, walking them through a process, getting them, access, connecting them with subject matter experts on campus. So we have a group that manages our ZotGPT tool, and they've been very proactive in community outreach and meeting with groups, and helping them understand, what the group's needs are and how maybe ZotGPT could be beneficial for them. And then, again, down at the bottom, job function, increasing concerns that reliance on AI and automation tools will diminish individuals' understanding of the roles, and these technologies can take over tasks that were once performed by humans. Really, again, stressing the importance of, we need to be there to validate the outputs. We need to be there to provide judgment and be there to make business decisions. And so really stressing that AI supplements what we're doing, but does not replace what we are doing. Cybersecurity and data protection. This is another area where an institution should invest a significant amount of time, especially if they're procuring a commercial product. At another institution that I was at, we were looking at procuring a commercial AI product, and we made a significant amount of progress in identifying how this could be used for us, and starting looking at what knowledge banks we could develop and what information we could pull into that knowledge bank. And in discussing with the vendor, we were assured that there was sufficient security for the data types that we wanted to upload into the tool. And we made significant progress, and we're very close to implementing the tool. But at the very last minute, at the finish line, it was identified there was a security issue with the tool. And one of the types of data that we wanted to use the tool for would not be, we would not be able to upload it. And so that was a huge loss for us in terms of time invested into exploring the tool. And so I suggest, if your institution's exploring any sort of commercial product, that security be one of those initial questions that you ask, and that you conduct a security assessment with your institution's IT group at the onset, rather than towards the end of the process. And that was a lesson that we learned, and not a mistake that we'll make again in the future. There's definitely an initial investment. Especially if you're looking at an AI-supported redlining tool. You're going to be spending time developing the knowledge bank, training staff. And so really one needs to be prepared to spend, to make that significant initial investment, but with the understanding that there's going to be potentially this long-term benefit. So when exploring these commercial tools, really need to be thoughtful in understanding how this is going to be used, and really what the return on investment is. If there isn't a significant return on investment, it may not be the right tool for you. And then staffing needs. We are fortunate that we have a very strong partnership with our central IT office that supports our ZotGPT tool. They are, again, proactive, community oriented. But if we did not have that, we would not be able to make as much progress as we have made in recent years, in sort of incorporating AI into our daily workflows. So again, overview. So foundational challenges, in terms of developing knowledge banks for an AI tool. We've touched upon all of these, but one thing, quality and relevance, really spending time to curate what we are providing the AI tool. As with anything, data, if you're not putting in, good information, your output is not going to be great. So really need to be conscientious that if you're not spending the time to curate the content that you're teaching the AI, teaching the AI tool with, you're really not going to benefit from that tool in the future. And then maintenance as well. I know here at the university, we have, pretty standard positions and standard guidelines, but that's not to say that they don't ever change. And so you would need, a commitment to keeping that information updated, policies updated, positions updated. If new issues come out, how are we going to be making sure that we're addressing those new issues? Is there a new policy coming out from the government? Is there something that affects how we negotiate or how we process certain things? If so, we need to make sure that we're updating the tools that we use to manage those transactions or those processes. All right. So before I get into the demo part, into the demo, and so this is still something that we are exploring, and so it's definitely not perfect, but essentially we have a sort of a pre-award ZotGPT assistant. What we've done here is we've uploaded data from the university, information about our proposal volume, what type of sponsors we're working with, how that's distributed across units on campus, how that's distributed across officers. We've also uploaded award data. We've included some proposed, sort of structure ideas that we've created. And so this has all been uploaded and created an assistant based on that knowledge bank. So I'll start a new chat and I'll just. And so one of the things that we're looking at is how we can group units on campus to collaborate on the pre-award process. So please create a STEM cluster of units on campus with similar I can spell this morning. Nothing areas sponsor types. So just a simple question about how maybe we might have groups work together. And from the data that we've uploaded, it's now providing me this information. And as you can see here, health science cluster, shared experience, providing me benefits about why this would be a good way to structure the group. And then one thing that it's been kind of really nice to have, as we look at, proposing new ideas to senior leadership, creating this sort of visually appealing, tool based on what we're asking or what we're proposing, makes it easier to communicate, makes it easier to present on. This may take a moment, so let me go over here to the ZotGPT tool. So as you can see here, we have a number of functionalities through ZotGPT. this is our primary, generative AI tool. We also have, this creator, and that's what we've been using to create these sort of assistants. And then, more on the educational side of the university, they have this class chat that, again, kind of like the creator, but allows uh, teachers to create this sort of chatbot for their classes. And then obviously an API with ZotGPT, and then, AI training, and then a prompt library as well to help individuals with their prompt development. Let's see what we were able to create. Okay, so that's still working. Let me open up this. So one of the things that I've done on my own, so this pre-award tool that we use to look at data and structure, that was created in collaboration with with our OIT group. So we solicited help from our subject matter experts. But this tool I created completely on my own. As I mentioned, I'm a research administrator. I'm definitely not on the tech side. Just really interested in how AI can help me, manage a central pre-award office. And one of the things that, I think is low-hanging fruit for research administrators in the United States, as those that negotiate federal contracts, is that we use federal contracts have what are referred to as federal acquisition regulation clauses. These are all clauses that are driven by a numeric code. And many institutions, UC included, have developed these sort of tools, via things as simple as a spreadsheet that says, okay, this particular FAR clause is acceptable or requires negotiation, or we can accept it, but then here are the internal controls that you need to put in place for that particular clause.